Hello, my friend in health. This is Stephen Hewer with Synergistic Nutrition. I wanted to talk to you about one of the most important topics to our health, and that's water. So, as we're young, our bodies can take most waters and structure them with the energy that we have in our youth, structure the water into a shape that we can absorb. The thing about water that's interesting is that the cell can only absorb one molecule of water at a time. There's a pore on the cell called the aquaporine, and water can only go in one molecule at a time. So that means that water has to be arranged either as individual molecules of water or as long chains of water molecules. After, say, approximately age 35, the body's energy to organize water and cause hydration starts to decline, such that when you reach, say, 75, 80 years of age, that energy that's needed in your body to structure water so that it can absorb into the cell is so much diminished that people become chronically dehydrated no matter how much water they drink. And of course, that's one of the reasons that you would see wrinkling and the atrophying of people's skin, where it's all gaunt. I've worked with a lot of water devices over the years. So in the beginning, I used to use reverse osmosis to purify my water. That was back in the early 90s, which was great in terms of purifying it, but it doesn't remove the negative memory, and it doesn't structure it so it hydrates you, and it doesn't put electron energy in it so that it ends up energizing you. So there's all these factors about living water, that if water was coming out of the ground from a healthy source and there was no pollution in the environment, then the Earth's natural energy would put the frequency that's called the Schumann resonance into that water, which is 7.83 hertz up to 14 hertz is a range that's called the Schumann resonance. And this energy is something that our bodies depend upon. In other words, for our cells to function correctly, for a plant to grow properly, for all life to function, all animals to function, all cellular structures, whether they plant, animal, or human, require this 7.5 or 7.83 hertz to basically maintain the cell's functions, which we're getting some of naturally just from being in the, walking around on the ground all the time or walking around on the planet. However, because of negative electromagnetic fields like Wi-Fi's, smartphones, smart meters, and unfortunately for some people, perhaps even 5G technology, our bodies are being bombarded with these unhealthy frequencies that disrupt cellular function. So being able to restore our bodies back to the 7.5 Schumann resonance frequency is something that would be extremely harmonizing to the cell structures and health-giving to the whole body. So after I used the reverse osmosis system for years, I finally graduated to the electron 5 distiller. So the electron 5 distiller, invented by John Ellis, is a sensational device because it does several things. It purifies the water, removes all negative memory, widens the water bond angle from, if you were to use the water molecular bond angle as a wishbone, from 104 to 114 degrees, which makes it more absorbable to the body. It also makes it so the body can break it down into hydrogen and oxygen better. It lowers the deuterium content, so there's this toxin that exists in all waters called H3O. It's called deuterium. It's called heavy water. It's toxic to the human body. Studies have been done on lab animals that have cancer, the ones that are given deuterium-depleted water, which simply means deuterium levels that are lower than normal levels that you would see in the environment. And the ones that got regular water with the normal deuterium levels died of their cancer. The ones that got the deuterium-depleted water all lived. So electron 5 distilled water has helped my health immensely. I love the effects that it's had on my body. And I've also used, typical filtration like a Berkey water filter. I've used the Prill system, where there's these beads that basically impart a beneficial energy into the water. I've used the vortexing system that's thought to be health-giving because you're vortexing the water, which is mimicking the way water would spiral in a stream or a river. And that's something that Victor Schauberger discovered. I've used quite a few devices, even many that I've not mentioned. But today I wanted to introduce you to the best water treatment device on the market, ever thus far invented, that's publicly available. Now, this device doesn't purify water, so you want to start with your pure water source. You can buy water off the store shelves. One particular brand that's decent and good because it's a healthy spring, so it's got decent, healthy mineral levels in it, is Geyser, and it's very affordable. You can also take, like my circumstance where I live, I use well water, and I can put that through a Berkey filter, and then I can have pure water that's still got minerals in it, and that's optimum because the device I'm about to introduce you to actually works better if there's minerals in the water than if it's just distilled water. Okay, so I'm going to take it out of the box. This is the box that it comes in. The device is called the water smacker. It was invented by a man named Bob Boyce. Bob Boyce used it to clean his arteries. 50-ounce plastic water bottle that comes in with it. And there's, of course, a power supply in the box. But this device, it's very simple to run. This is the water smacker professional model. It's got a professional label up at the top. It's a little light switch at the top, just like on your wall to turn on your lights. And in the middle, you'll see there's a stainless steel rod in there with special, you could say, threading to create a certain energetic effect that's desired, as well as the cylinder has got a special metal lining. And at the top, at this area, you've got 2 Tesla coils. And in the standard model, non-professional model device, it's got 1 Tesla coil. So all you do is fill up this plastic water bottle that comes with your order with pure water that's got some mineral content in it, preferably, and slide this over so that this stainless steel rod goes right down the middle and is submerged into your water. You then have this plugged into the wall, you then turn it on, and with this particular unit, in 24 hours, it'll transform the water into this desired effect, which I'll talk about momentarily. If you get the standard model instead of the professional model with only 1 Tesla coil in it, it's going to take 48 hours to transform the water. And what this does is, they call it non-Hertzian energy. So it's attracting energy from the environment. So whether you want to call that orgone energy or we want to call that prana energy, this life-giving energy that's an ocean of energy that exists, they call it ether, this energy is attracted into the water. This water is transformed so that it has the 7.5 Schumann resonance frequency. So when you drink it, you're putting into your body this ideal harmonizing frequency which enables the cells to function at their optimum healthy state just from a frequency standpoint. The water is also structured into microclusters or into individual water molecules. So the individual water molecules then can readily go into the cell, causing this ideal cellular hydration, ideal elimination of waste, ideal carrying of nutrients into the cell. There's also this huge amount of electrical energy put into the water. So this non-Hertzian energy, this environmental pranic orgone energy comes in here. It becomes so concentrated that when you finish charging the water, it's literally got an electrical charge in it. So that if you put your finger right in the top of the water bottle after 24 hours with this unit or 48 hours with the standard model, you'll get an electric shock on your finger. And so if you were to drink it right from the bottle, before you took that charge off, you'd get that electric shock on your lips, and that's why they call it the water smacker. So drinking this kind of water has some pretty profound effects on the body. And I have been on it now for probably 2 months. The effects have been awesome. I mean, it gives me this energy that I normally don't have in the morning that enables me to just sail through the day easier. I end up needing less food, I find, because I find that I'm getting my energy from this water. Over time, the benefits are seen with people reporting all kinds of amazing things. People have reported their liver enzymes returning to normal after 6 months on this water. And this is drinking only 1 pint a day. So to get the therapeutic effect of drinking this water, it only requires that you drink 1 pint a day. So if you bought one of these units and needed to share it with other people, you could theoretically, basically with 1 50-ounce water bottle charged in 24 hours, that could be 3-4 people basically being able to drink a pint a day. However, I want to drink this water exclusively, so that 50-ounce water bottle is what I use in a 24-hour period of time, which sometimes I drink all of it in 24 hours, sometimes I don't. Just depends on what other hydration sources I'm getting. If I'm eating some watermelon or if I'm eating a lot of healthy fat, that's a source of water. I need less water orally. 2 women have reported that the issue that they had with regards to shingles, this is a herpes sore expressing on one's skin. Over the course of 2 weeks of drinking this water, herpes shingles went away. Another case history is a man that had high PSA, which is prostate-specific antigen, indicating potential for prostate cancer, but that wasn't diagnosed. It was just a high PSA of about 9. Ideal is 0 to 0.5. And after drinking this water for several months, his PSA went all the way down to 0.5. So that was miraculous. Another case is diabetic neuropathy. So the nerve pain, where the nerves in the peripheral nervous system in your hands and your feet irritated from the condition of somebody dealing with the disease known as diabetes. One person testified that those symptoms went away, the neuropathy pain went away, just from drinking this water. Other people have reported arterial plaque totally clearing out of their arteries, which I find fascinating, but basically that this water can be dramatically effective in cardiovascular health. So I've just mentioned quite a variety of health challenges that people have reported have had either heal or improve dramatically just from drinking water that's been transformed by the water smacker. What you need to understand is that the cell of our body functions optimally when it's free of metabolic wastes and free of environmental toxins, which I've said this before in other videos, that a famous scientist named Alexis Carrel did this study, started it back in, I think, 1913, where took chicken heart tissue and kept the chicken heart tissue in various petri dishes, and one particular petri dish had the chicken heart tissue that they would basically feed it a nutrient broth every day, but also then cleanse that environment and replace that broth so that it got cleansed of its own metabolic waste. So those cells kept dividing and staying youthful and being basically eternally youthful. And in these other petri dishes, they experimented where they let the metabolic waste of the cell accumulate in that nutrient broth. And what they found is that if they let that metabolic waste of the cell's metabolism accumulate in and around itself, that the cell would begin to age. And if they didn't bother to replace that nutrient broth, the cells would eventually die. However, with that first group of cells that they kept doing that replacement process and nourishment process, the cells kept dividing and staying eternally youthful for 32 years. And then one day the technician forgot to clean the cells and they died. A chicken only lives 7 to 14 years. So they just proved that the cell, he just proved in his study that these cells are immortal if two requirements are met: complete nutrients to the cell on a daily basis and complete elimination of wastes. So what's the biggest thing that controls the body's ability to eliminate its wastes is water, and how well that water is going to actually get into the cell, pull toxins out, and keep the cell free of its own metabolic waste. So this kind of water, the reason it's had such strong effects on so many people is because it's giving you maximum hydration and therefore cleansing the cell of its own metabolic waste, thus resurrecting the youthfulness of the cell and maintaining the ability for that cell to divide for a much longer time in a more youthful state. So one of the other benefits of the electron content of the water is that those electrons act to neutralize free radicals. So remember, free radicals are substances in our diet, in the environment, from exercise, toxins in the environment, that once in the body, they need an electron to stabilize themselves, and because they don't have it, they steal it from a cell, which then damages the cell or kills the cell, causing inflammation or causing cell death. That's called free radical damage, and it's one of the theories of why the body ages, the free radical theory of aging. So consuming water full of electrons is basically putting into your body all this energy that neutralizes millions and trillions of free radicals. So your body doesn't have to spend all this time trying to repair injured cells from free radicals. Instead, it can spend it basically increasing the enzyme telomerase and lengthening the telomeres of the cells so the cells become biologically younger, and all these other benefits that can happen from a clean cellular environment free of free radicals. One of the other benefits of the electrons is they can grab onto acids that are in the body, neutralize them, and carry them out of the body, thus pushing the pH of the body in the ideal direction back towards 7.4, which can be measured in your morning saliva. And one of the ways by which you can sort of like help yourself to live a long, healthy life free of disease is to maintain your body pH so that your morning saliva is reflecting a 7.4 saliva pH when you wake up. And so the best time to take your pH is after you wake up, after 5 a.m. You would then spit some saliva onto a pH paper, watch the color change, and then you can see where you're at. Of course, I carry pH paper, and it's got a little color chart on it so you can see which pH range you're in. And then you would also do your urine, because ideally the urine should be like 6.4 to 6.8. But virtually everybody that's not consciously doing something to alkalinize their body is running excessively acidic. So we know that the blood pH has to be maintained in a very narrow window. It's 7.35 to 7.45. If it goes outside that range, we die. Or if it goes outside that range too much, we die. And so the body has to do everything that it can to maintain that pH in the blood in that ideal narrow window. So it sacrifices, when the body is excessively acidic, it's sacrificing alkaline proteins. So proteins that say make up your discs, or proteins that make up your cartilage, or proteins that make up other tissue structures are being sacrificed, as well as your body sacrificing bone tissue so that it can dissolve the calcium out of the bones and use the calcium as a means of alkalizing the body. One of the other mechanisms by which the body will maintain that blood pH is it will sacrifice red blood cells. If there's too many acids coming into the blood, then the body's got this crisis going on, and so it will sacrifice and kill off, trillions of red blood cells, because the red blood cells are being able to free up, once they're broken down, they're freeing up arginine, histidine, and lysine, which are 3 amino acids that can bond to hydrogen, which is the acid portion that makes up an acid, thus neutralizing the acids and thus keeping the blood pH in that very narrow window. Meaning, if you're losing a lot of red blood cells because your pH is so acidic, you could be having anemia that has nothing to do with iron deficiency and nothing to do with B vitamin deficiency or any other cofactor involved in making red blood cells. It's just being too acidic. So for years, I promoted the idea of using lime water, which is the most powerful supplement that a person can take and safely take to push the body pH in the alkaline direction. Is called lime water. And it's not citrus lime. So it's not the citrus. It's just taking calcium hydroxide and putting it in a liquid solution with some sulfur, because the sulfur is what's making it soluble and absorbable. And it's a formula developed by Dr. Carrie Reams, who is the first pioneer in the whole pH phenomenon back in the 30s, and first using it in soil fertility practices and then using it on human health. So if you need something stronger than just the water and something that's going to stay in the system longer than the water does, I still personally take lime water myself so that I can push my pH and keep it. So I wake up in the morning, I'm 7.2 every morning, and my still have pH. My urine is still too acidic because I'm still working on some other issues related to my thyroid and stuff and other things, so which I won't mention right now, but just basically I'm still working on bringing my body pH into that ideal range so that even my urine reflects a more healthier pH window of 6.4 to 6.8. And another thing, with regards to one of the most chronic diseases that we have in our culture, you've got cardiovascular disease is still number one in terms of the number of people that die. That's the highest percentage of people that die from that disease. Second is cancer. Third is called iatrogenic, which is, of course, doctor-induced death. In other words, the procedure, whether that was the medication or the surgery or the anesthetic, whatever the doctor did, that person died from that. That's the third leading cause of death in the United States. But with cancer being number two, this is something that you need to understand on a biochemical level. Cancer occurs and creates an acid pH. So once the tumor cell has started to grow, that cell, that however it started, whether it was a chemical toxin that entered the cell, whether it was because of an injury, physical injury, whether because of radiation that you got, or, which is the most common one, which is just degeneration of the body, where the cellular environment became so acidic that, and pH controls oxygen. So when you have an acid pH level, a low oxygen level body, when you have an alkaline pH, you have a high oxygen or an optimal level oxygen carrying capacity. And we know that tumor cells grow in an acid pH. So Dr. Otto Warburg, a famous scientist back in Germany, back in the 30s, early 30s, first thing he discovered was how cells breathe. And after he discovered that and defined that, he was nominated and won the Nobel Prize for identifying how cells breathe. Then he continued his research. He would take healthy tissue, lower the oxygen levels in the environment of that tissue for 48 hours. He would lower it by 40%. And after 48 hours, those normal cells had now converted over to tumor cells. And the reason is because the cell is required to live on oxygen in an aerobic environment. When it converts over to a tumor cell, it's now functioning and sustaining its, you could say, life as a tumor cell in an anaerobic environment. And then the tumor cell, because it's malfunctioning and making energy very inefficiently, takes carbohydrates of any source and converts them into lactic acid predominantly, acidifying its own tissue environment, which makes it more invisible to the immune system, so the immune system can identify and get rid of it. So you end up with a more aggressive acidification of the body for all the different tumor cells that might exist in the body. They're producing all these acids, acidifying you even further, lowering your oxygen levels even further, which then causes all these other cells of the body, metastases or other areas of the body that can develop cancer, simply because of the lowering levels of oxygen that's occurring. So back in, say, the 90s, one of the hot topics with regards to alkalization was coral calcium. The whole thing about Okinawan Japanese that live to be 80 years of age on average in relatively good health. And one of the things that they've discovered is the consumption of coral calcium is a part of their diet all the time. And it actually was said by them that coral calcium will be taken and help heal the world. Now, I'm not saying that you need to take coral calcium. In fact, like I said earlier, the lime water that I carry, this is a stronger method of alkalization. I believe you can only get like an 8.5 pH movement with coral calcium in water, but with the lime water, it's an 11 pH. When you measure the pH of the water with lime water in it, it's an 11 pH, which is very alkaline. So then the pH scale is 0 to 14, 7 being neutral. If you've got a pH of 11 with lime water, you're going to neutralize far more acids in the body and much more quickly than if you do it with coral calcium. While coral calcium is good, it's got other benefits, and you can take it if you're not strongly acidic, you're relatively normal, you can take it for its other benefits. I carry that too, it's good stuff. But point being, you've got a civilized population where they've got modern day living practices just like any other civilized part of the world, and they're living longer, more healthfully than all Western cultures. These are the Okinawan Japanese, because they're consuming this coral calcium every day. You've also got, as an example, the Hunza people who live between Pakistan and Turkey in a valley that they have created this ideal existence in terms of their water source comes from glacial snowmelt. Glacial snowmelt glaciers, of course, are grinding the rock surface of a mountain, turning it into silt. As the glacier melts, it picks up the silt, brings it into the river. Their river is so full of minerals, it's opaque white, it's gray looking, you can't even see through it. And this is what they drink, and they irrigate their fields with it. And these people live to be 100 to 140 years of age, free of all disease. They got men souring children after the age of 100, playing rugby after the age of 100. So these are some strong, hardy people. And one particular factor of their diet is their water that's so full of calcium, which is the key alkalizing supplement of the body. It's not the other ones. Those ones are, there's 4 alkalizing minerals that the body needs in high amounts: calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. But if you're trying to alkalize the body efficiently, it does it with calcium. 80% of the mineral requirements of the body is calcium. So the Hunza people have all this calcium in their drinking water. They drink it every day. And I did the math one time, and they're drinking about 1/3 a cup of rock calcium along with trace minerals in their water every day. 1/3 a cup. They have no calcification. They have no kidney stones, no arthritis or spurs growing in their joints. They have no calcification of their body causing the aging process. So calcium inherently in and of itself is not the issue. It's a whole other subject, and I want to get into that in my next video. It's a fascinating topic that I want to introduce to you in the next video. But in short, I carry now the Water Smacker Pro and the Water Smacker Standard model that is phenomenal. And if you compare this to the water devices on the market that are similar, you're talking about a water ionizer. So water ionizers are units that typically hook up to your kitchen sink. They take the water, they put it through a filter, then they ionize it. And so that's a current being put into the water, and it's shaving the water up. So it's breaking the water molecules apart. Hydrogen is being concentrated into one batch of water. The OH ion is being concentrated into another, which is the alkaline water, and this is the acid water. And then basically people have had relatively decent beneficial health effects from that kind of water. And those units cost anywhere from $1,500 all the way on up to over $4,000. The problem is that those units require maintenance, break down, don't put the Schumann resonance into the water, don't structure the water into these individual water molecules for maximum hydration. They actually use titanium plates typically, and the titanium comes off of the plates as little white snowflakes in your water. That's a toxin to the body, the titanium dioxide. It's not good for you. Those better than nothing units don't compare to the Water Smacker and the Water Smacker Pro, whereby you're paying $550 for the Water Smacker Pro. This device is built to last a lifetime, doesn't require any maintenance. It's got a 2-year warranty on it against manufacturer defects. Then you've got the standard units that are $370, the same thing. So this is a phenomenal, comparatively speaking, phenomenal economical purchase for the health benefits that you can get from it. When you order the Water Smacker Pro, you'll get this, which is a set of instructions and a few other things that you'll learn about. This little thing you see on the side here, you can use this to test if your unit's working. It's just for your own sake, because you don't hear any buzzing or hear any sounds. There's nothing that runs mechanically to hear this thing running, and some people doubt that it's working. So you can take this little LED light with these two wires exposed, and one wire will go onto the actual metal rod coming down the middle, and the other one you'll touch against the metal cylinder inside, and you'll see the light up when it turns on. You won't shock yourself, and then that would be your way of proving to yourself that it's operating. So I do have a limited supply of these water smacker devices, and when I sell out of them, that will be the end of me carrying them on my shelf probably for a little while. And at that point, I'd like you to go directly to the watersmacker.com website. That's where you can find these units, and you can find other information. And you can also, learn about the testimonies both on my site and also on the watersmackerpro.com website. But when you finish buying the product off of the watersmackerpro.com website, please choose Stephen Hewer Synergistic Nutrition as your referral, so that I can earn the credit that he said he'd give me as a result of referring people to him. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. I operate my business, Synergistic Nutrition, between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. these days, Monday through Friday. So feel free to call. Love to talk to you, love to educate you, love to help you, and also learn from you. All right, thanks for your attention. Blessings.